Jerusalem is a place where the melting pot never took hold. It remains today, as always, a mosaic of peoples, faiths, and ideas, inwardly troubled, outwardly serene, and unexpectedly resilient. Just over 3,000 years ago, an obscure warrior king called David captured a small settlement high up in the Judean hills. Its name was Jerusalem, meaning the foundations of wholeness or peace. Jerusalem has been conquered 36 times, besieged more than 50 times, and destroyed 10 times. Enclosing the old city is this 450-year-old wall built by Suleiman the Magnificent. It was not until 1860 that Jerusalem outgrew the old city. Driven by overcrowding and filth, Jewish, Arab, and Muslim neighborhoods began to cautiously rise outside the protective confines of the walled city. Jerusalem historian Ross Kulner gave us an insightful look into this fascinating city, steeped in spirituality and trapped in its turbulent history.
I would say if one had to characterize Jerusalem, it is really not only in many ways a multi-ethnic city, it is one has we get the flavor here of the religions of the world. I mean, everywhere you walk through, you hear the church bells beside the blowing of the shofar of the Jews, beside the calling of the muezzin, and sometimes simultaneously it's really resonating all around you at all times. One gets a sense that you're in a city that is very, very international in flavor and is very different, let's say, from the rest of Israel because of that concentration. It leads to a fascination and a stunning aspect to the city. It also leads to the intensity, basically, of emotion and sentiment. Everybody crammed into the same place and venerating often almost exactly the same spot leads to, obviously, the kind of, inflammatory kind of inflammatory character of the place, and one has to maintain a modus vivendi often in the most interesting and accommodating manner so that everybody can live side by side. Within the old city of Jerusalem, within the walled city, we have four basic communities, or four basic sections. We have the Armenian community, a very ancient community, back since the early days of Christianity, having formed its own quarter. We have the Jewish quarter, which goes back hundreds of years, and following the hiatus between 1948 and 67, when Jews were denied access to the old city, having been rebuilt in these past 20 years, we have a general Muslim section in which the Muslim population within the walls lives, and a general Christian quarter, as opposed to the Armenian Christian quarter, a general Christian quarter in which are located the representations and delegations of many or most of the major Christian denominations of the world. Okay, we're now at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, meaning that you're now more or less, in many ways, at the heart of the Christian quarter. Obviously, because of the centrality of this site to the Christian tradition. This is Golgotha. This is where Jesus was entombed, resurrection. The centrality, every Christian denomination, which sees itself obviously as the true church, wants to get control, or wanted for centuries to get control of this particular site. Standing now in the heart of the Jewish quarter, which as you walked in and crossed the line before, you noticed immediately a change in atmosphere. In the War of Independence, the Jews were expelled from this quarter following the surrender of the quarter to the Jordanian Legion. The gates of the old city were shut, and there was no access given to the Jewish population of Jerusalem, either to its ancient residential area within the walls, or to the sacred sites of the Western Wall down by the Temple Mount area. Behind us on the Temple Mount, we see two of the important and sacred sites to Islam. The Golden Dome of the Rock, which stands more or less precisely on the site of the original temple. And we see the slate gray roofed Al-Aqsa Mosque, which stands at the southern end of the Temple Mount area. The Golden Dome stands on the site where, according to Islamic tradition, Muhammad ascended on his magical al-Buq toward between the 7 spheres of heaven, getting the prayers for Islam. Whereas the Al-Aqsa Mosque acquired its name from the general name applied to the entire Temple Mount area, which means the furthermost, Al-Aqsa meaning the furthermost, which according to Quranic tradition or later Islamic tradition, Muhammad made a journey to Al-Aqsa, the furthermost mosque, and according to the tradition, this is the site of that. Down here you will meet the entire Jewish world. Why was it called the Wailing Wall, which is not a Jewish term? That was usually a term used rather derogatorily because of the habit or the impression that Jews were weeping and wailing all the time. The wailing has a certain connotation to it, which is not particularly positive. We call it the Wall, or the Western Wall, because it is the western wall of this complex. It is common for the Jews there to read the Book of Lamentations, and to basically lament the destruction of the temple. Does God dwell here, specifically in that particular place? I don't think I can make a generalization. I mean, that would say reflect the opinion, the majority opinion of any particular. I'll put it this way, and I think this is basically true. There is an inherent sanctity to this place for observant Jews. It goes a very deep and inherent sanctity to the city of Jerusalem. It is at the core and it is the heartthrob, the wellspring of Jewish culture. To understand the Jewish attachment to this city, you have to be aware all the time of the importance that they attribute to it. It goes beyond religion.